TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donation.
Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. Israeli Defense Minister Yisrael Katz says the IDF is well prepared for renewed strikes against the Ayatollah regime in Iran at any given moment. The Sultanate of Oman and the Islamic Republic of Iran discussed tolling commercial vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz, despite President Donald Trump's warnings against it. And the Ayatollah regime asserts that the IAEA will not get any access to Iran until after a final status agreement is achieved. Any state or non-state actor that raises its hand to attack Israel will face a determined preemptive response. Speaking at a Regional Council Expo Q&A session, Israeli Defense Minister Yisrael Katz was asked about the reason behind Israel's lack of a response to repeated attacks which had emanated out of Yemen by Iran's surrogate Ansar Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe, to include 10 projectiles, ballistic missiles, and one-way attack drones that were launched at Israel.
First, no one can suspect a lack of determination and aggressiveness on our behalf. We had twice preemptively struck Iran. There was no one else that did this. Many tell stories. Yes, twice we had preemptively struck Iran, and we were prepared for a third time with or without the United States. And also now, by the way, the IDF is prepared for it today. If they attack us, or it will be clear that they are about to attack, we will attack. What about the Houthis? The Houthis, who began attacking us, I had said that there would be a plague of the firstborn. Remember? And there was a little bit of luck. We decapitated the entire senior leadership of the Houthis, except for Abdul Malik al-Houthi, who is hiding in tunnels. Will he die? If he enters our crosshairs, he will die. Whoever raises their hand against the state of Israel, their hand will be severed. This means that there is operational plausibility. Of course, yes, this goes for every enemy. Khamenei was eliminated. Ali Khamenei, the leader of Iran, the leader of the Shiite world, the man who invented, promoted, and funded the project to eliminate Israel, we eliminated him.
Earlier, in a meeting with troops at an IDF combat officers' course, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu emphasized that the war against Iran is not yet over. Moreover, amid reported limitations on the IDF's operational freedom that were imposed on Israel primarily during previous administrations, Netanyahu also highlighted Jerusalem's determination to expedite Israel's own independent munitions industrial base.
We are now facing Iran and its proxies. We have struck them. It is not over yet. But it depends on our power. Our position in 30 years depends on our strength. And so, what we are doing right now is bolstering our power excessively. I want to develop munition independence. I really appreciate the support we have received, and which I had also brought about over the years, from our American friends. Today I say, we need our own independent munitions industrial base. We will produce our own munitions. To free ourselves from any dependence, to bolster our power unceasingly, to introduce more and more technology.
Meanwhile, in the Gulf, where American allies such as the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Kuwait are less excited about the Memorandum of Understanding that was struck between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran, Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio has engaged with the leaderships of those countries in a concentrated effort to alleviate their concerns.
Well, we have long-standing relationships and partnerships with the three countries I'm visiting, and we're here in the United Arab Emirates. I don't know of anyone who's been stronger with the United States over the last 6 months. They've been phenomenal. I mean, for a long time, but certainly over the last 6 months. So we have an ongoing partnership that has been building for over a decade now and continues to grow. So my sense is that we're going to continue on that path, obviously taking into account the new regional dynamics that are at play. But we're really here to hear from them more than we are to talk. We want to hear their thoughts, especially in the aftermath of this weekend in Switzerland, and make sure that their views are taken into account in every decision that we make, because they're our partners.
Asked whether the Emirates, Kuwait, and Bahrain are supportive of the MOU, Secretary Rubio essentially stressed that it is all about the details of a final status agreement, which is far off.
Well, I think all of our allies are on board with peace. Obviously, it all depends on the details of that piece as we work through, but it's a work in progress. This is an issue that's been going on for 47 years. So the idea that somehow it's going to get solved in a day and a half, I don't think anyone's been selling that. I think there's a framework and an outline upon which we can make real progress. I think good groundwork was laid over the last 72 hours, but a lot of work remains to be done, and we want to hear from our partners. We want to make sure that their views are taken into account, and we understand their security concerns, their regional economic concerns as well. So it's natural for us to be here and talk to them because this is a very important issue for them. They're right next to it.
It is important to point out that the main concerns among Gulf countries remains the large sums of money that would stream into Iran's treasury, and as a result, the Ayatollah regime would reinvigorate its ballistic missiles and drones industrial base, alongside support for their regional proxies to include the Iraqi Popular Mobilization Forces, or Hashd al-Sha'bi, the Lebanese Hezbollah, the Yemeni Houthis, and their global operations of Islamic Jihad, cells of which essentially exist in every continent globally. However, according to Secretary Rubio, the topic of Iranian proxies would undoubtedly be addressed, among other issues that are not listed in the MOU.
That most certainly will come up in these conversations. And there are items outside the MOU that are certainly going to be covered, but that's one that will have to be covered. It'll be discussed. I think a careful reading of the MOU will see that when you talk about, for example, a complete and end of hostilities in the entire region, well, that's not possible. You can't have the end of hostilities and conflicts in the region as long as Iranian proxies are launching missiles and drones from Iraq and are participating in terrorism like Hamas did and like Hezbollah did. So I do think it's covered by the MOU, and it is an issue that will be gotten to at the appropriate time in these negotiations.
It is interesting to know that Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, during a joint press conference with his Pakistani counterpart Shehbaz Sharif, insisted that the IRGC's ballistic missiles program would never be part of any agreement with the United States.
The issue of our missiles does not exist in the memorandum we had, and it never will. If we did not have our missiles, which were for our self-defense, Israel and America would have attacked Iran like they did Gaza, showing no mercy to anyone, young or old. They talk about human rights, a huge lie, and if we were unable to defend ourselves, they certainly would not have shown any mercy to our country and would have destroyed our power. Consequently, under no circumstances will we ever negotiate about our defensive capability with anyone.
While Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian engaged with the Pakistani leadership, which voiced their deep sorrow over the loss of the Ayatollah regime's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and pledged their support for Iran, Tehran's parliament speaker, in parallel, met with the Omani leadership in Muscat, during the course of which they spoke about international navigation through the Strait of Hormuz.
In compliance with all international laws here, with the Iranian arrangements that are actually mentioned in Article 5. Of course, just as there may still be issues in Lebanon and elsewhere, there are also issues in the Strait of Hormuz. As you have seen, there have even been clashes on some nights. We agreed to establish coordination mechanisms there, including a hotline and a center that can be contacted whenever there is any ambiguity or dispute. During this 30-day period, under Article 5, the parties will be able to maintain close coordination so that vessels transiting the strait can do so more safely and efficiently. Allah willing, this will help improve traffic flows and shipping volumes through the strait, boost the regional economy, support the global economy, and allow us to move forward.
It is interesting to know that in a joint statement that was published after the meeting, both countries announced that they, quote, reaffirm their commitment to the safe passage through the strait in line with applicable international law, while emphasizing their sovereignty and sovereign rights over their territorial waters in the Strait of Hormuz. The two countries, which paradoxically claim both adherence to international law and then contravene international law by claiming sovereignty over the strait, highlighted their intentions to impose tolls on shipping, calling it cost of services rendered. The statement highlights that Iran and Oman, quote, agreed to maintain their dialogue on this issue through a joint working group between the two foreign ministries in order to reach agreement on the future administration of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz and the services that will be provided in this regard and the costs associated with them in accordance with international standards. In this context, they have also agreed to hold discussions with the littoral states in the region and with any other relevant parties. It is important to highlight that while Iran and Oman clearly believe they can get away with imposing costs on international shipping lanes, Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated earlier that the United States would not agree to any fees.
Well, that's the law. It's an international waterway. No country is allowed to charge tolls or fees on an international waterway. That's existing international law. That's the way it is in international waterways all over the world, and that's the way we expect it'll be here. So I don't think we have anybody to convince around here in that regard. I think all the countries in this region would agree with us.
Secretary Rubio's statement was subsequently echoed by President Trump, who posted on his Truth Social platform, quote, Iran has informed the U.S. that despite troublemaking fake news reporting to the contrary, there are no tolls, no insurance costs, and no other charges of any kind being bought or received by Iran on ships traveling the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump continued by stressing that if this is false information, negotiations would end immediately. Separately, during a press gaggle, President Trump also responded to Iranian claims that they had not agreed to any IAEA inspections.
They're wrong. They're wrong. They know they're wrong. They told us inside, and we have it down, 100% inspections. And if they were right, I'd cancel the meetings right now.
Following the president's statement, Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi revealed that they had rejected a request by IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi to meet and that there is no intention to grant any access to IAEA inspectors until a final deal is reached in defiance of Iran's obligatory commitments under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.